to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing, John Purdy's going to open us with prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the time that we have tonight. Pray that you'd make us very wise in the way we deploy the resources of the taxpayers of this town. We thank you for our first responders, those that are here this evening, those who aren't, and those our military men and women all around the world, keeping us safe and driving freedom and democracy into the world. We pray for their safety and their success. Pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th?
Motion to approve the minutes from February 5th.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second by John Purdy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5 affirmative. We have a motion to approve and ratify the fund report and docket.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by John Purdy.
Second.
Second by Dennis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative. Old business. First Responders Memorial Project. Mary Beth.
First, Wendy and I want to thank you for letting us be here this evening. We just kind of want to tell you where we are with the project. So the front page is just a timeline, kind of to walk us through where we started on June 28th of 23. Trooper Aaron Smith was killed on the line of duty. August 1st, Deputy Tim Geyer also lost his life. On July 28th of 23, I met with Megan Smith at Crawford Park to discuss a possible memorial, and we began fundraising. On August 1st, we received our first donation of $1,000. On August 2nd of 2023, we shared our story and our mission at National Night Out. We collected $203 that night. On September 1st, Uplift Johnson County became our fundraising partner. In October of 2023, Drew Braley with Browning and Day joined our team pro bono as our landscape architect. In October of 2023, Uplift filmed the promotional video at Crawford Park, and they also launched, and maybe a little bit before that, their website that put all our Crawford Park story and all of that on their website. January of 2024, Mike Duke and Matt Harrison joined the team pro bono as our general contractors. In April of 2024, Johnson County Sheriff's Department joined our team. On June 28, 2024, we had our groundbreaking ceremony. On September 14th, we did the Johnson County Sheriff's Department motorcycle ride, which raised $10,000 for the project. We began construction in September. On December 7th, 2024, we held our ribbon cutting dedication ceremony. Our original estimate for the project was $120,000. The actual final cost for materials and labor came in at $78,890, which was a savings of $41,000, and a lot of that credit goes to Matt Harrison at Duke, because he really went out and got bids and talked to people, told our story, got them to donate a lot of things that way. We received multiple grants that Uplift applied for and was granted. There's a list of those. So as far as unpaid expenses, we will be getting one more invoice for $250 from Nathan Blanchette. He still has to come and he's waiting for the weather. He's going to hope to do it this week, but with the rain, I'm going to guess next week looks a lot better to engrave that last piece of scripture on the top. Early on, we talked about if we raise more money than we needed for the project, we would reimburse Uplift for their out-of-pocket expenses. So you have a copy of the breakdown of what their expenses were. It comes to $8,089. That would be money that we would reimburse to them. They did also make a $10,000 donation to the project. So they are well invested into the project. They have, remaining in their account of money collected that's still sitting in their bank account, $19,000. We would reimburse them $8,089, which leaves almost $11,000 sitting in that account. So tonight, I want to ask you about the payment to Uplift. We talked about that would be approved early on, and how you would like to handle it. Before she transfers the money into our Proctor Park account, do we authorize her to just hold that $8,089 out, or do you want Angela to write a check for the invoice that you're seeing in front of you tonight?
Can I ask a clarifying question? Did we already receive the 10,000, or is that part of what's?
Yes, it's already in the bank.
In ours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uplift wrote the check early on for the 10,000, and this is actually the money that we collected in the sheriff's ride, and some of the last donations that came in are still sitting in our account.
Yeah. So there's no other money that we're expecting to come in.
Okay.
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 And that's included in the, well, it's the total cost was the 78,890 plus the 8,089.
Right. Yeah. So, and Wendy has said either way, she said it's easy if she just holds the 8,000 out of the 19,000 and just transfers the 10,911. But I want, if that's what you approve, I want it in the minutes, so when Angela gets audited, it's real clear and real clean. Either that we approve the reimbursement just by her holding on to the money, or.
Honestly, just for the sake of transparency and to keep everybody's butt out of the ringer, I think it would be best to let us write Wendy a check, and just that way, if anybody ever questions you, here, we have receipts, it was all done above board and proper, nobody's gotta be
Right.
concerned
That's why I
about it.
wanted to bring it here tonight, so it was real clear in the minutes when the audit happens that somebody's. So,
And really quick though, with the motion or whatever we council approved last year for paying for Proctor Park things, I could turn around and pay this next week. I don't have to wait till the next week, right?
No, I don't think you have to wait till the next meeting.
Because we made that decision.
And they're
Yeah.
gonna make that decision tonight too, so,
Yeah.
and they'll take some formal action on that if that's the way that you decide to go.
and then, when we had the ribbon cutting, it was cold, it was a lovely day. We had a good turnout, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised, but it was wicked that day. So we talked about then, that we would like to come back and do a community celebration. We are looking at the date of Sunday afternoon, August the 3rd. I spoke briefly with Dwayne, and he said that, all of the granite is in for the refacing of the monuments, all the veteran stuff. So I was thinking that would give them time to get all of that installed. One of our main goals, and something that we, for whatever reason, have failed at, is exposure of the park, that there's still so many people that don't know that park is there and what's in it. So we would like to hold that event on Sunday afternoon, August the 3rd, from 1 to 4. We have been awarded a grant that doesn't show up in these totals, of $2,500 from Festival Country for advertising, promoting that event, entertainment, all that kind of stuff. So we would like to retain this $10,911 that's left. We would like to also hold out $2,500 of that money, so we would have a budget of $5,000 to do transportation, talk to the school, talk to the church down the road about where people can park. We've already talked to Tim Wood, he's willing to DJ for us that day. Wendy's made a contact with somebody about providing food for the day, and it would just be a 3-hour event. But what we would need to really do is hold $5,000 in reserve, because the $2,500 from Festival Country is a reimbursement. We have to turn in our receipts, and then they'll reimburse us. So if we held $5,000, they do the reimbursement, then at that point we can do the $2,500, and if we don't spend the whole $5,000, whatever else is left would then transfer over to Proctor Park. So if you would approve items 1 and 2, we would only be transferring $59.11 to the Proctor Park Fund. that not being the case, if we're gonna pay Wendy outright, then out of the 19,000, if we hold $5,000 to cover that event, we would transfer $14,000 into the park account now. I believe, when I got the last report in the Proctor Park Fund, right now, we have a balance of $18,799. So when we transfer that money in, after we pay Wendy, or Uplift, and if we held the 5,000 in reserve, that would give Dwayne, a balance in that account of $24,710.22, which would then be able to, I mean, I know how often you replace flags and other kind of maintenance they have to do in that park, but I can't, say enough about the team that came together on this project. And the memorial is gorgeous. It will be even prettier when the landscaping blooms this year, but from what we started to where we ended, I'm just overwhelmed at how well it came together.
Questions?
When's the National Night Out this year?
It should be the Tuesday after that Sunday. That's the 5th. I think it's usually the first Tuesday in August.
Is there a potential to combine those two things into one?
Wendy and I talked about it, you know, and I don't have, we don't have a problem with it. The only place that the problem would be, John, is parking.
Yeah.
And we'll have a parking issue anyway, which we always do. But at National Night Out, they bring in so many vendors, the people that do the dog,
Food trucks.
and, you know, and the fire guys have a car usually where you do your extrication, and there's just not room in the park to have all that stuff set up.
I mean, it's blocked now. Could we just detour and have a block party and block off that county road? Just right in front and,
That's a pretty big undertaking. I know when we did it for a couple motorcycle rides,
Just a
yeah,
very long exercise.
yeah, people had fits.
I mean, that'd be,
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of having them separate though, just because they are two separate things, and
Right,
you
different
might draw
purposes.
two separate crowds.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, it just,
But being so close together, I mean, is there a reason not maybe to have this a little earlier in the summer? With them being 3 or 4 days apart, it seems like both might cannibalize their own crowds.
We talked about June or July. I want Thomas Monuments to get the rest of the park work done. They kind of seem to drag their feet. Want to have everything done when we get there. And then we just also talked about the kids go back to school in July. Is that right?
Yeah, the 28th, 30th is their first day.
he doesn't
And
know.
we just talked about, you know, that a lot of people like do vacation and stuff right before school starts, and how hot it might be, because there's not a lot of shade in the park. So, I mean, August 3rd was just the date that we came up with. I don't know that we can't be flexible, but I think that National Night Out is always the first Tuesday in August, so I don't know
That's
that
not a
they,
weekend, yeah.
yeah, that they would want to switch.
Yeah,
I think the East Park is a great venue for National Night Out, but I don't necessarily wanna do a community celebration for the park and not have it at the park.
yeah.
At
No,
the
I
park,
agree,
yeah.
I agree, and I realize the parking.
Yeah,
Could you, because I understand what you're saying about July, could you kick it the other way a couple weeks?
into September? or
No,
something?
later, just later in August, a couple weeks, like the 17th. That gives us 2 weeks in between. And just, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if there was a reason for that, that you picked that date, or just,
No, when we talked about it, at first we talked about trying to do it. Wendy has like a couple of other big events that Uplift does.
okay,
And we talked about maybe trying to do it more towards the end of June or 1st of July, which is kind of around the time that Aaron was killed. But we really don't wanna make it about Aaron.
Right.
You know, it's for all of our first
Right,
responders, it's for all of our veterans, and we don't want the media or somebody else to tie it into that event. So we were just trying to put a little space between that. I mean, I don't know what Wendy's schedule looks like, I never know what mine looks like.
Can we do this? I mean, I'm fine with having the event. I think it's great. You guys worked your tails off and, you know, this is way, way more than anybody ever expected. If we go ahead and approve it, can we kind of get some more information from Wendy as far as her schedule and what works for, and not necessarily tie down a date tonight?
Well, we kind of though, we're gonna need to tie down a date for the food vendor and for me to call Tim back, because he's got us penciled in for the 3rd, which he said he doesn't usually book things on Sunday, so I think maybe he can be flexible and move us to a different Sunday, but could you, I mean, if August 17th is more the date that you all are looking at, if it goes back and that matches, I don't know, your
Yeah,
schedule?
we're flexible with the exception of, we are the title sponsor of Franciscan Stroke Camp in July 11th, 12th, and 13th. So our team is actually going to be at a stroke camp for 3 days, blessing stroke survivors. So that's really the only thing. So you've got 4th of July, which we need to steer clear of, and then we have stroke camp, and then we have that 2 weeks where everybody crams their vacations in with their families before they send the kids back to John.
Sure.
So later in August would probably work better than pushing it into July.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, going farther in. Well, I think if we did June, that's gonna push too much of getting the stuff done that you want to have done, and, you know,
A lot of the people, when I went out and gave the presentation about raising the money, not only did we talk about the first responders memorial, we talked about the teardrop for the 22 a day suicide. So when people come, I want to know that memorial is in, because a lot of people gave money because of the suicide piece.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we could look at a Sunday later in August, if that, so that if it matches Wendy's schedule, we could go ahead and get confirmation from our food vendor and our.
Are you good with the 17th, Wendy?
Actually, I had forgotten in our discussion, Wham Fest is the 16th, Saturday the 16th.
Okay,
And so
how about the
probably
24th?
Yeah, we probably
How about
want to go that next
24th?
week. Yeah, steer clear of Wham Fest.
Yeah,
because they're
go
already
ahead.
drawn for that.
It's none of my business, but I figured I'd just throw something out that popped in my mind since the charity ride, we were part of the donation stuff. We do the charity ride around September 11th as part of the memorial for that. I don't know if it's too late in the year, if that's something you consider. And in fact, we could even take the route through Proctor Park. We have stops that are as part of the charity ride. And with that being a thing that's, people associate with first responders and things like that, that might be something to think about too. It's a little later in the year, but we could even make that one of the stops in the charity ride and have an event, or even, I don't know if there's enough room, but as the ending, we usually do a dinner and things like that. That's even a possibility. If you were interested in it, and we'll throw that out there, that that's something we could.
Is it Saturday, right Saturday or Sunday?
We always do it on Saturday. It's the Saturday closest to 9/11, but that's it.
That would actually be a really nice tie-in for our first responders, and since Festival Countries grant is to be applied to outreach to the whole state. Their goal is tourism, so we've got to send outreach out. So we were going to be inviting all the fire stations, all the police departments. We were going to be sending a direct mail piece. So tying it into September 11th, that's actually that's a really great idea.
Seems fitting.
So I like the idea. The only thing that I will say is, and I don't know as of yet how much bearing it's gonna have on it, but the county is gonna be closing Whiteland Road at about that time, so that's gonna push, they've moved the detour, but naturally that's gonna push a lot of traffic onto Tracy Road, which will ultimately affect what we're talking about too, so.
Well, that would just be payback, so.
Well,
I didn't say that out loud. I like that idea.
I do too. That's a great idea. Thank you.
So what would that date,
The 13th?
Yeah,
13th?
Saturday, September 13th. Yep.
Can we, how's that sound to everybody?
I think it sounds great. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Do you think that when we did the motorcycle ride before, we would coordinate so that on your itinerary, saying where your stops are gonna be, you could give us a pretty
Oh, yeah.
approximate time?
We're real close on that, and the good news is this is fully escorted by us, so we
Right.
have, you won't have to worry about closing any roads down, we handle all of that as part of the
Yeah.
so.
I like that.
I
Because I
still
would just
think
say we
close
might,
to
just for
good
30 minutes or
venues.
whatever,
Yeah.
want to kind of,
Yeah, because you generally make those pretty quick. I mean, it can be quick if one is
Trace, I know.
Yeah,
And given that the sheriff's ride donated $10,000 to this
Yeah.
project, I think that's really an
That'd be-
awesome
That is a
commemoration.
good
of
idea.
Yeah,
their
absolutely.
participation in the event, really, so
Okay.
that's-
so that's September 13th?
Yeah.
That's Saturday. Okay. Great.
Actually, we plan on being regular donors, we bring in some decent money, we also have some other funds that, tie into that, and we plan on.
You guys have,
we'll get with the people that we talked to, is make sure that that's a good date for them, and then we'll get back with you all and we'll tell you the time
Okay.
frame, because we probably want to put some signage over there that says park closed to private events
Mm-hmm.
on that day, so somebody doesn't come to take a shelter house for a birthday party or a family reunion or something.
Okay. We still need to have a motion and a vote to approve payment to Wendy and
And can
Uplift
we
and-
hold $5,000 in reserve in the account that we have there? They're also tax exempt.
Right.
So that, since they're the people that are getting the grant, not the town, Uplift is getting the grant from Festival Country.
Okay.
So we can hold the 5,000, we'll pay that, when they get reimbursed, then we'll give all the money that's left over to the town after the end in September. And then I give Angela a copy of the invoice so that
Okay.
we get that paid.
So do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
John Schlotsky? Dennis? Second. I saw you move your hand.
yes.
Questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5 affirmative.
Thank you.
So Mary Beth, we'll be getting 14,000, and we'll be paying 8,089.
Yes. Yes, but you're gonna hold 5.
Yes.
And you'll write them 14 and then you'll write them, yeah.
And I realize this is the accounting of Uplift's expenses. You either already have or will give us an accounting of all the donations and all that. Okay,
Well, the
perfect.
donation, you've already turned in the donation.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you already have this from every single donor.
Okay.
And we'll be able to also put together a more specific budget for this actual event. Now that we have a date and we can start talking to people and get, obviously restaurants can't tell you for sure until they know what date.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so we'll give an exact accounting of what the actual event is
Okay,
gonna cost
great.
us.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And what do you do?
And before we move on real quick, Mary Beth, thank you. I know that's been your passion. And Wendy, this wouldn't have happened if you guys hadn't come on board with us. And, we got Sheriff's Department, we got our Fire Department, Parks and Public Works people here, and none of this happens without every one of you guys. And if you've not seen it, avail yourselves of the opportunity, because what they've done over there now is absolutely gorgeous. So thank you all for
And well deserved.
everything you did.
Well deserved. Everything over there.
Thank you for the support.
Okay, now to the fun stuff. Flood insurance, Matt.
Alright, so, after, John came in, signed all the documents for the Mayfield switchover and all that stuff, comes to find out they never quoted flood insurance for us. So, and there's a few other things I'll get into after that as well, things they didn't quote, but we have two flood policies. One is for the biosolids building there at the wastewater treatment plant, and the maintenance garage as well, which is all in the both buildings are in a floodplain. Let me see. So I can read the totals right on which one's which.
I marked yours. One of them says shop and one of them says vital.
Yeah, anyways, one of them is, $1,271, the other is $1,280. Which is actually a little bit of a savings from what we were paying through Epic. Theirs was, 1,274 and 1,291. This is what we had on those. So what would happen is if you guys approve this to be switched over tonight, they would send me those documents for John to sign. We would also get cancellation documents to sign for the current flood policy we have. Those have not been canceled, so you know we were still covered. So those were two of them. There's another policy that they forgot to quote, and that was the police department accident and sickness policy. That one is an additional $389. And these are annual payments as well, just so you know. $389 for that one. I am waiting on one more to come back, and that is basically this same policy, but it's for the fire department. There's the possibility on that one that they could just roll over our current policy to Mayfield, but they're thinking that it's not going to be allowed. If that happens, if they're able to roll it over, that annual premium is $4,135. Is what that annual premium is. I don't know what their new quote. She hasn't got it back to me. So as of 4 o'clock today, I haven't received it back from them yet.
Do either of these bring in the reserve police officers?
So yes, the PD accident and sickness does.
Okay.
I think that's really the biggest thing. So,
okay.
And the applications were sent to Joe, he filled those out, and then the one for the fire, they filled out what they could, and then the insurance company kind of filled out the insurance side of it.
So with everything included here, we're still lower than what we were, we're just not as low.
Yeah, I don't know if you had seen the breakdown that I had sent. So our annual for everything from Epic was $161,175. If everything goes through, and we'll just say that the fire department accident and sickness stays the same, if they were to transfer it, the Mayfield total premium with everything would be $154,325.38. So
We're still just shy of 7,000.
the $7,000 change, you know. But obviously, I'll bring that the accident for the fire department one to you once I get that. So.
I do have a real quick question. Is there a reason why the police department's is a tenth of what the fire department is?
I will be quite honest with you. It probably sounds really bad, but you know, I was just I was the messenger type person. I really have no clue what these two policies do. It's just policies we already had with Epic. I have no clue. I don't.
If I had to guess, and this is simply a guess, it's because they're reserve officers and they're not necessarily working full-time and they're not being paid.
Yep.
The only thing I could think of, but that would be a good question for me.
Well, I would assume, I don't know, I can't remember, I know there was a number that Melissa said, how many, you know, what are you doing, like 35
Yeah.
or something like that, 37 or 33, and, you know, the fire or the police departments.
The reserves, they have 3 or 4.
Right, so they're probably like 10 or 11 total.
Yeah.
Between all of them, so I
And
don't know
then-
if that's a difference, but.
And Dave's sitting back there thinking it's because we're better than they are, but hey.
They're worth more.
So the buildings actually have flooded before, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And what,
So the reason why, so I would assume back in '08, we never actually had flood insurance, like the flood insurance on those.
right,
And the floodplain all changed after '08, and those buildings ended up being in the floodplain.
oh, so they weren't in the floodplain prior to that?
I don't believe so. I wasn't here. I started about 4 months after that happened, so I'm
Okay.
really glad I compete with that. But that's kind of the way I understand you. I know you were here when it happened. Do you have any idea of?
I don't know. As
Well, I
far
was
as-
just-
I would assume that it was probably flood fringe at that time, but
Right, or maybe the council just chose not to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I guess, I mean, but to your point, there was 54 inches of water in that shop too.
And something telling you it doesn't have too much to do, but with that biosolids building project that we're looking at, that's one of those things too, to try to get that building out of the floodplain too.
right, right.
Which that'll help. So, okay, we do need a motion to approve both of these policy changes.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Dennis. Second by Chad. Questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative. And before you move on, Matt, if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump down to new business just for a second because Wendy has graciously said she would stay to hear what Kevin has to say about the use of East Park. So Kevin,
Thank you.
you're fine right there, Kevin. Thank you.
When I was kind of tall for a short when I was a kid growing up in church, we saw this revival preacher. His name was Cecil Todd. He was fire and brimstone. And he was only about 5'4", but I didn't know it until I went up there and they had the call time and he was standing on it. Anyway, my name's Kevin Surface and I want to thank you on behalf of Charlie and Michelle and all of us to allow us to come in front of you and present what we'd like to do. We're here for a good cause, and I'll explain it, but we're here because this is they are a part of our church family, the Whiteland Christian Church, and where John is a member, and the kind of need got to be known around the church, what we were trying to do, and the venue we were trying to do it. And so Dion mentioned John, and John was gracious to allow us to come before you tonight. So thank you, John. So the Edmonds have a daughter, Becca Robb. She's a teacher at New Whiteland High School. Her 3-year-old son, their grandson, Elijah, has been diagnosed, and he's a New Whiteland preschool child. Was a few weeks ago diagnosed with childhood cancer, neuroblastoma, and it's there's no other way to say it, but he's in Whiteland. It's a pretty severe case, and so there's a lot of prayer and a lot of stuff going on with that. And their daughter, Becca, lost her husband, how long? August of 23, to, and she was pregnant with their second child, not Elijah. He died from a rare blood clot disorder. They knew it. It was probably genetic, and he was being treated, but it was such a severe strain that it got him. So he died early. So she's been through that, and to raise 2 kids on her own, and now the oldest boy, who's going to be 4 this month, has been stricken with cancer. So, as a church family and as friends and believers, we are trying to raise funds to lessen, or take part of the the stress she's going through with having this second thing happen in her life. It's very emotional for her. So we decided various ways we could help as a church, but also inform a committee and inform a group of people that inside the church and some of our best friends where we could have a fundraiser and hold an event. And so this is what we're doing here tonight. And in our planning and everything, we had decided that I've never been in front of a town board. I speak easily in front of people, but tonight I've been involved in so many fundraiser meetings as a contributor, or I've sponsored them, but I've never been part of the planning and hoping doing the things. They tell me what you need and I'll try and help financially or the contacts and so on and so forth. And so as we discussed all this, the optimum, of course, is to, when you're raising funds for something like this, you're trying to keep costs low and giving high. And so when you look at events, place to hold events, you look inside, you look outside, you look time of year, you try and get the timing right. And so the problem, there's a lot of connections we had and that at inside venues. The issue is that it doesn't cost too much to rent an inside venue, but the timing, a lot of them are busy, but the thing is that almost every inside venue does not allow you to, there's a minimum food per head, and even with the discount, it's counterintuitive. We can't raise enough money, so we'll charge people a lot more money, and that didn't, to come in to an inside event. So when John said, John said, hey, we have this outside event and outside venue in the pavilion, and Becca's a Whiteland teacher, and we discussed it, and it really met. We were excited about it because whether it's mental cost or whatever it is, we were really excited about it because it solves a lot of. It takes care of a lot of issues for us because we can really bring in the kind of food trays and a lot of the stuff on that flyer has been done in the last 2 weeks literally. So we are at your mercy and these are just the things we're wanting to do. And if there's things on there where we can or we can't, we understand. This is kind of new for us. And so, but that's kind of the idea, to raise funds, to have sign auctions, to do all those things, guitars, and all those things that are on there. So we can bring in our own food on serving trays, and people will donate for that from the church. You can go to Sam's Club and buy the full pork and all those things. So this outside venue, we don't know the guidelines as of yet, but it just helps us to do what we're trying to do. Now, the reason we were doing this is, of course, the financial help. It's so emotional struggle for them too is that the financial need is they have health insurance, but it's like I'm an insurance agent and have been for years in life and health and property and casualty, so some of the flood stuff. But like most plans today, the out-of-pocket is, her out-of-pocket is maybe $12,000 on the plan, and she's got to meet that. And the other thing is she's having to. I had a brother-in-law pass away after a 2-year battle with stage 4 glioblastoma brain cancer, and my sister had to take 2 periods of family medical leave act. Well, you can take that by law, but you don't get paid. So she's taking the family medical leave act, so she's not getting paid. She's getting a little bit of Social Security on the 2 boys from the father who passed away. So there's emotional needs there, and financial needs there. And the other thing is, she's going to have some low remediation. But the other thing is, hopefully when the boy comes home, they're going to have to do some air purification systems because it's very severe. And it's a, the fever and what he's going through, that when he comes home, he's gonna have to have a really clean environment. And it's, water, air purification. So there's a lot of financial things here. So we're trying to meet all those needs and without the least, with minimal expense. And it's kind of a godsend that we're here and that John's allowed us to do this, and that it's a beautiful, I've never been here, but it looks like a beautiful place. And so that's what we're doing here.
Well, one of the reasons I asked Wendy and she graciously agreed to stay is that's what they do. And I know in talking to you guys, and honestly myself, if it's something I had to put together, it's not going to happen just because I don't know exactly what all to do. So I know there's some things that Wendy might be able to assist with, but as far as the date and just, we would need a motion. We did something similar to this last year with Michelle Davis when they did a multiple church sponsored thing. So, just kind of see what thoughts are. If anybody has questions for Kevin or Michelle.
June 21st is what we would like.
I didn't know. I'm sorry, John, I didn't know.
I didn't have any visuals, but I can show you a picture of little Elijah. That always helps a little bit.
This is Michelle.
This is
Becca's mom.
Elijah will be 4 in March. And he is probably the most outspoken, sassy. He will tell you exactly what he's thinking and what he needs. You don't have to worry about where you stand with him. But yeah, our world got wrecked really bad on that day in August when she lost her husband. And so we've been kind of surrounding her since then. And she was 5 months pregnant when she lost her husband. And she's a really strong girl. She's a special ed teacher. She got a master's while she was pregnant and had a baby. So she's kind of one of those, I'm going to do it, and she's very strong. And so this was really kind of a punch in the gut when he got sick. He'd always had some problems, kind of throwing up and everything. But they told him he had the flu, and come back in 2 days. And when they took him, into the emergency room, on that Monday in January, they missed the tumor. And they sent him home thinking that he needed to go be cleaned out. Well, by 2 days later on Wednesday, we didn't think he looked well at all. You've got this yellowish child with this very big distended stomach, and it was very, very hard. He got sent home from school because it started to affect his eye was sunken, his left side, and everything. So we found out 2 days later. Doctors in the emergency rooms move really quick when you're a mouse back. They sat 10 hours in the emergency room 2 days before. They had him diagnosed and everything pretty much in 7 hours. We were looking at a tumor 13 inches. Was it 13 inches? 13 centimeters, which equals 5 inches. Sorry, not a bad person. And that was January 15th. He's still in the hospital. 2 rounds of chemo, getting ready to do a stem cell harvest tomorrow. This is good stuff. Neuroblastoma, I don't know if anybody knows much about it. It's a very scary childhood cancer. It's the only one where they use the patient's stem cells. So they're going to harvest them, they're going to hook them up, they're going to take them out, put them on ice, go back and transplant them back in July, and then again in September. The doctors, they were not as hopeful as what you'd like when they gave her the news, but he has defied all odds, and I'm sure it's just the
network that we've got. His tumor has shrunk each time. He's got dead tumor laying in there. It's causing a little bit of trouble, but this thing is not winning the battle. He's expected to have an 18-month treatment, so that's one of the reasons why we're so motivated, because she's on FMLA from Whiteland High School, and Elijah was an attendee over at, was it Clark Pleasant Early Learning Center? So she's got quite the support system in this community. So we're just trying to, we do have a spot fund up, doesn't seem to be moving very much. So this is one of the reasons why we wanted to do a fundraiser. She's a teacher. We don't need a ton of money, just, enough to kind of replace her salary until he goes to kindergarten and she goes back to work. So.
We also just want to, as far as getting this out from a church family basis, Dion wanted to wait until we had a meeting tonight and then kind of, in our vote, we can do some things to maybe do a dual advertisement, so to speak, for this event and the spot fund and start getting it out there. This will help.
I'm pretty close to this because these are friends of mine. So if you guys have questions, comments, or, I would like to see us approve this and let them be able to do this fundraiser.
I'm absolutely in favor of it. Did we write an ordinance about how people would use the park?
I don't know that we ever have.
Okay, I was thinking we had.
And what was the date?
May 10th.
It's Saturday.
June 21st?
Yeah.
Oh, this is not right?
Does she have May?
May 10th.
May 10th.
No, because that's Mother's Day.
Okay.
Okay. So June 20.
Mother's Day weekend, it's too soon, and we don't want to take the chance of rain.
So June 21st?
Yeah.
Okay.
John,
Yes, sir.
okay, first of all, I'm very familiar with this, and I'm totally in favor. Okay. Question. Since they had listed the possibility of bounce houses, do we need insurance?
Well, we have insurance.
Well, I meant
Yeah.
insurance certificate from the church or...
Oh, I suppose, I think our insurance covers it whether we get that or not.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to know.
Generally they do.
Yeah.
And then the lady who's heading that up will have,
I think we had it.
we'll have waivers as well.
Did we charge Michelle Davis and her group?
We did.
Do you remember how much?
250.
I'm not saying we need to do that, I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, and again, okay.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I think that's a board decision, so.
No, I don't
So-
feel like we need to.
Okay, so would you make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we allow the use of the park at no expense.
Okay.
Second, third, fourth.
Any other question?
Mr.
John Chalotsky. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative.
And you might, when you change your flyer, make sure you designate it as New Whiteland rather than Whiteland, so people end up.
Sorry, I didn't.
No,
Yeah.
don't be sorry. I just want to make sure people know where they're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry? East Park. And if you guys have a couple minutes and you want to talk with Wendy, she's with Uplift Johnson County, and they're the ones that did the big fund.
Thank you. What's your name again?
Wendy McClellan,
Thank you.
Johnson County. So, and this
Yeah.
isn't the Whiteland business, but we'll assist with the fundraising, that's what we do. Our mantra is see a need, seek to fill it. So what we do in the community is raise funds for exactly these types of situations. So I'm gonna give you my card, and then you can get in contact with me, and we can set up a separate meeting, so obviously we don't need to hash it out here.
Yeah,
Uplift is in.
if you want, Wendy, if you have other stuff you need, if you guys want to use our conference room, you're welcome to.
Do you have a few minutes? Yeah.
Okay? Thanks, Kevin.
God bless you guys. Thanks.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
Okay, All right, I'm gonna skip you again, Matt.
I'm here for the long haul.
I know, you're here. I think, Andy, let's go ahead and, because I don't know if you're on duty or not.
No, I'm
Probably
on
not,
duty,
but
no. This
you
is
probably
the
have
end
been
of my
all day.
I don't know if this has been provided to you or not, but I'll leave a copy just in case. Thank you very much for allowing me to come in here, and, gosh, it's, after hearing that story, you know, it always puts things in perspective and what really matters, and so it feels a little, odd to talk about something like this, sanitary sewer after hearing that story, but, if you haven't heard already, I purchased the former Cloud property on 75 West, last month, closed on it. It is just outside of the town of Whiteland limits. I purchased that directly from Mr. Klaus. I had to contact him, and it ended up better for him. He now, I don't know how familiar with some of the history there, but he now lives up in Indianapolis and is in a better place on medication and doing things that are better in his life, so that's good. But we were able to purchase that property. My wife and I have been looking for property in Johnson County for years, and as we all know, it's extremely hard to find something like that. So we currently reside in Barbersville, and I actually started out my full-time career in law enforcement as a town of New Whiteland employee at the New Whiteland Dispatch Center. Worked there for several years until I was hired by the county dispatch. So my kids went to Whiteland schools for 3 years, or 4 years, I'm sorry. And like I said, we live in Barbersville now, but the plan is to build a house on that property. We are donating the house to fire departments to burn down, and of course that helps us out because now we don't have to go through all the construction process. It also helps them out, giving them a chance to train. So then as part of that, what we would like to do, we're going to build a house much further back from the road than the current house is. Obviously, we're looking at what we're going to do for the standard things you need for a home, and one of those is sanitary sewer, and the preference would be to tie into the New Whiteland sanitary sewer system, which actually does run through the easement on the far east side of that property along the creek. Matt was very helpful in figuring all this out, how that would work, that we could potentially tie to that on my property. We would just have to do the run all the way back there to make that happen. But if we need your approval to do something like that, we are outside of the town, the New Whiteland limits, but just outside, and we promise to be good neighbors. The property's already getting cleaned up and already looks a lot better than it did. I don't know if anybody's been about it or not, but it's a work in progress. A lot of work.
So this is the property where the fellow had been living in the garage.
In the garage, yeah, and got shut down.
Yeah.
Board of Health.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
I think we've had others that are outside, and don't we just set them up on a fee schedule
So,
since we don't use the water?
right, and I'm assuming are you still planning on hooking to Indian American Water?
Yeah, so I called Indian American Water, and they said it's no problem, I can hook straight up, the main runs along 75 West there, and so it would be the usage billing.
Yeah, it would basically work just the same as if he, it was inside city limits.
Okay.
And this is gonna be it's just the four of us, my wife and I and our 2 teenage boys, and we're gonna have a few animals and some things like that, so no businesses being run out of there, no excessive use. This is just like a house in the neighborhood.
So dumb question, would we annex that piece?
I-
And make it part of the town?
Not unless they wanted to, unless they requested, but I think.
Is it contiguous?
Okay,
Yes.
It is.
so, just asking, okay, there's Rustic Lane, so 75, so the red arrows that I'm seeing, is this the problem? I can't.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't explain that. I gave you the picture. Okay, so on this one, the words were supposed to go out the sewer map. That's north. Okay, this is County Road 75 West to the west, and the property is the one that's surrounded by the trees with all of the growth in the middle there. And then the new subdivision is to the south, right? Rustic Lane is right there.
It's not all this, right?
Well, the current house is right here by the road.
That's all that?
And we plan on building
tie
about
out back
300
here.
feet back from the
And
road.
this is our line?
And this is your line.
Oh, that's a good.
Okay.
good
New Whiteland
Okay,
right there.
so it's super convenient.
I know where we're at.
I was gonna say, it's basically that, their south border of their property is basically the boundary for Zee Island.
Yeah, and I
How
see
many-
the
how many
water
acres?
line.
Well,
How many acres there?
8.
8.
I'm gonna show my ignorance here as a town council member. Would there be a negative for him, for us to annex him? Because, you know, this is not exactly in the direction we expect the town to grow, but it's right on the edge. I'm not sure why we wouldn't think about that.
So the only thing I will say is, some of our ordinances and stuff restrict, farm animals and things like that, and then that's what he's talking about doing. And actually, we not asked him about potential annexation, he wasn't real enthused about it. So my question to you at this point, if that's the interest that you may have, is it something that we could do, connect him on at the current juncture, but make it contingent upon if he sells it, then it becomes annexed into New Island? That way he still gets what he wants, but, you know.
Yeah, I would not like to, nothing against town of Whiteland, like I said, I love the town of Whiteland. In my interest, I want to clarify too, is we're not going to have a large farm. We're not going to have, this is not, I would like a few chickens, a few small farm animals, things like that I wouldn't be allowed to have in the town. And I want to do some very small scale farming ventures of some wildflowers, willow trees, things like that. Nothing that's going to disturb the area in the slightest.
Garden and.
Garden, yeah. So I would like to stay outside and be able to build my own structures and things like that. Very good, small scale. We're talking about small barn and things like that. So I would like to remain outside of the town, if at all possible, to do this. That would be.
I think another option might be that as a condition of granting approval to connect, you could waive your right to remonstrate against annexation. If the town then needed to annex in order to push the boundary out to establish contiguity for annexations in the future, you wouldn't be able to oppose it. But at that point, your use of your property would be established.
Yeah.
And the zoning ordinance, whatever you came in, which would be R1, but any use that you had established as a pre-existing non-conforming use would be allowed to continue. We can't impose retroactively the rules of our zoning ordinance. Now, I don't know whether that would ever happen or not.
Right.
But if we're trying to strike a balance here where you would not come into the town now, you would be able to start using you could develop and use it however you want. If at some point it was really a need for that to come into the town later, we couldn't undo anything you were doing. What annexing would do then would limit how you could expand the use of your property in a way that didn't comply with the ordinance.
My only counterpoint to that is twofold, is that I'm not sure that would necessarily come up, only because with the annexation, it's more houses to the north of me, and so annexing that property in the future would do nothing for the town, because now you're up next to another property, and then another, and all the way up to Tracy Road, and in which case, to the east of the property, the town's already there at Tracy Road, and so if you needed the continuous borders there to expand in some way, there's really not any way to do that. The only thing I could potentially see for development would be to the farm area to the west, on the west side of 75 West, in which case you could jump straight across and go around it. I know in the county, obviously that's my area of expertise, we have numerous, not really islands, we used to have islands, they did away with most of those, but we have a whole lot of borders that do this number to go around farming communities. So to answer your question, no, I would not like to do that, and the reason for that is my intention here is to keep this property in my family for future. My boys, I want to keep them there. I don't want to restrict anything that they would potentially do. And the sewage thing would be wonderful and would be a great convenience, and not having to deal with the septic, because the septic is there is inadequate, not in the right place. But no, that would not be something I would want to do. I don't want to lock my future generations of the Barnharts into anything, and if they sell it when I'm dead, I guess that's their business. But I would prefer not to.
Well, but it's subject to the county zoning ordinance. You're locked into that now.
Correct, yes.
So, how do you avoid the imposition of rules?
Well, there's rules everywhere.
Well, there are.
Yeah, sure, yeah. I just, the counties are, anytime you go into a town, you're going to have more restrictive ordinances there, and things like that, and I would just, it doesn't benefit me in any way. The only thing that I'm looking to benefit here is to tie it to the sewage. That would truly be the true benefit. The benefit to the town is that, you know, that particular property has been an eyesore for decades, and deteriorating here rapidly. I've already had about a dozen people walk up and tell me how thankful they are that it's getting cleaned up. I know that Beezer looked into trying to buy that when they bought that neighborhood anywhere, they bought the land for that, but that they didn't know how to get a hold of and it wasn't gonna be worth their time.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of floodplain for that, so I mean, as far as, you know, future development wise, I mean, there's very little that,
But what would be for that, it would be just a matter of whether we think to establish contiguity, if there's a break in that, we can't jump over a property.
But continuity is where, that's my question. I understand what you're saying, there's no.
I don't know, and I don't fully understand exactly where this is relative to what the town may do. My only point is, if any of you envision that there would be an expansion of the town through this property in order to annex property north of it, we can't leave this property out and meet the contiguity requirement in order to bring property in that's on the other side of it. If we really do break that contiguity, we can't overcome that any other way. But I can't see the future like that and say whether that will or could become a problem or not.
And to make sure then, if there's still a question of, if everybody doesn't know where that lies, what I'm
Right
saying
here,
is,
right?
Oh, yeah.
while what he's saying is a hypothetical,
It is.
but what I'm saying is that those other properties to the north, there is nowhere to, you would have to be saying that we want to annex 6 farm properties all the way up to Whiteland or up
That's
to
fine.
Tracy Road, and there's nowhere to go.
You mean
Tracy
all
Road
there,
needs, the church is
you mean on
there,
the side?
so it doesn't really. I understand what he's saying is hypothetical, but there's literally no reason that town would ever do that. So if I can bring up a satellite or something at home, or if you put in the address, it's 5729, yeah.
Okay.
So,
But I'd almost argue the other side of what you're saying. If there's almost no circumstance where we might do that, then there's almost no circumstance where it would affect you or your family. But it reserves the opportunity if it ever makes sense for the town to do that.
sure.
and if you look at it, we would still have continuity to the properties north of him.
That's what I
You mean on the
All
side?
parks there, the church is already up there in the town.
You mean to the side? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe you. You don't have to prove it to me.
Lee,
But if that's the case, then that takes this issue off the table.
yeah, Lee, because we've done this before.
Yeah.
Have
On
we
the other
ever tried to place a deal or stipulation on some of the other entities?
I think all of the sewer customers that we have outside were sewer customers.
25?
Yeah, Shelton's and those up
Yeah.
north of town. I think all of those were established before I ever came along.
Oh, good.
So I don't know whether they waived the right to annex or not, but it was really, it is customary that when someone outside the annexed territory asks for utility service, that is what they give in consideration for that service being provided, for that very reason. But here, if as a practical matter, it's not a concern because we can get around those properties, hit your property anyway, then I don't see that there's any need for it.
And I don't think Shelton's were, because that was right, I mean, I was on the
I
very
see.
beginning of that
think so.
part of it, so,
I assume it might.
License
That's
involved in
Yeah,
that too?
so-
yes.
Okay, because they butt up against that
this
county
is it right
plot
here.
that's
Yeah.
my backyard.
Yeah, I think we've done this in the past without there being any issues with it, and as long as we
Yeah,
can, you know,
I'm not really pushing you to do
Yeah.
one thing or the other. I just want to make you aware that once this is granted, you have an opportunity in this moment to say, yes, we'll give you what you're asking for if you give us what we're asking for.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that, then that opportunity is lost. So just be aware of it.
Okay, so let's bring up one more point on this. So what if there was a contingency to that as long as he owns it and his heirs own it, then there's just no discussion. Some sort of guarantee like that. Is that something that can be done? So if he ever sells off the place,
Outside of his family.
yes, that's what I'm getting to.
Can I say something? You were talking about saying that on a condition that he would not remonstrate, but if we were to try to annex it and he remonstrate, does that automatically mean we can't annex it if we have a remonstrator?
It does nowadays, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there really are no forced annexations anymore.
Right.
He would have to be willing at that point.
Yeah.
But, so and this is a question, legal question, so if you assume that's the right property line, there's not a way this could end up being a negative for the town? It wouldn't stop us from doing anything around it?
Not if we have a town boundary that is adjacent to any property we would want to annex. And I'm thinking that this would be along the east.
Yeah, so-
rather than the south.
Yeah, so the property just
So-
north of him actually, and would be contiguous to Proctor Park. And then you come to I think there's a couple of parcels in there, they're all contiguous to Proctor Park.
So it just has to have one single boundary line? It
On
doesn't
their
have to-
east boundary rather than.
So there's really not a circumstance where that would be a negative for the
It
town?
sure doesn't look like
Well,
it.
then I don't, I'm good, yeah.
Do you wanna make a motion, somebody?
I'll make the motion to annex.
Second.
Not to annex, to hook up. I fooled everybody right there.
Now he is on.
I talked that man into it.
To
For hookup.
allow the hookup?
Yes.
Okay. Do we, second by Chad, other questions, comments?
And that would be subject to all of our sewer availability fees and
Right.
charges
Yeah,
and rates.
yeah.
And I think, have you guys discussed that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I said all that to you illegal.
Yeah, cause he knew about having to run the power. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5 affirmative.
Thank you very much.
No
If there's
problem.
anything, like I said, I plan on being a great neighbor, don't worry. I'm the chief deputy of the sheriff's office. I know a lot of you know Dwayne real well, and, so if you, need anything, you just let me know.
But it'd be nice to have that cleaned up.
What's that?
We may need some eggs before long.
That's right, yeah.
Drive by my house and Tracy
It's
Ridge.
a heck of a lot better, I will tell you that, I drive by.
Yes.
And that's a lot part-time work, yeah.
It'd be nice to have
Are
that
you-
cleaned up.
Yeah. Are you gonna be at the Shindig Friday? Are you serious?
Oh, yes, actually, yes, oh, yes,
Okay.
I'm gonna be there. Yeah.
Okay.
We won't talk about this, I'm in uniform.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go back to old business now. On call with Wessler.
Alright, so this is something we've done, it was, I think, November 5th of 2009 is when we kind of started this, so this is just amendments to multiple contracts we've done. This is strictly just for our MS4 program, our stormwater program that it's an on-call contract. They help with the annual report, collecting all that data and making sure we're doing all the things IDEM wants us to. This one is also gonna have a little bit more into it on their details. They're gonna help set up a tracking system on our GIS for inspections and things like that, which again just in turn just makes it easier for doing the annual report moving forward and other inspections. Let's see. We'll go through, we'll do our SWIP inspections of the facilities, they'll come in and help us with that. And then there's also some money in there for plan review, things like that, that has to deal with stormwater and stuff. So, and this is something that I budget for every year. I don't budget, it's in there this year.
Is this the same amount as it was last year?
Last year was actually 14,000. We were gonna, the original piece, it was actually gonna be, I think, 12 or 13,000, but I had them add in the, let's see, the part about implementing, you know, inspections and helping us design stuff for those inspections into our GIS system was kind of, it bumped it up there to that 15.
Okay.
So, and I don't really, be honest, I don't expect us to spend all of that. I don't believe we spent all of it last year, so.
Make the motion to approve.
Motion by John Purdy, second by Dennis. Questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5 affirmative. And the employee bonds, Angela.
Last meeting I had mine and Ken's. The mail's been crazy, so we hadn't received Cindy and Melissa's. And just like last time, I need signatures from everybody. And I think, do we need another motion?
Well,
The last one was for
yeah.
the other two.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, let's do, because there is that language in the statute about the council approving them.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's just limited to public officials or not, but I don't think so. I think it's for everyone. So just a motion to approve the bonds as submitted.
And these are for,
Melissa and Cindy.
okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
John Purdy, second by Chad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative.
Angela, we're done with bonds?
Yes, we are done with
Okay.
bonds now. Until next year.
Okay.
Angela, you have any other old business?
I do not.
Do not.
I do not.
Lee, Chad, John?
Nope.
Nope.
So I don't know if this will be old, but it's on that resolution, is that legislative or?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Don't have anything.
You have old business?
Let's call it that.
Part of old and part of new, so CCMG project, I guess it's official, I took a phone call from Pam Breeze and NDOT, we are gonna get funded for all of that. And the new portion of that is, Lee and I have been working on the bid specs, it will be advertised Saturday.
Yep.
We don't anticipate, we will be opening bids March 26th at 4:15 p.m. Here in this building, facility room, and that way we will be bringing hopefully the recommendation for the contractor. The only stipulation with that is that we need to keep in mind is that the way it's working this year is we can't award the contract until we have received funds, the purchase order and all that stuff. It's a little bit different this year, so I don't know what's going on there, but so that's just what's taking place, so.
Okay.
This kid don't mess around, in case you
That's
wonder.
good work. That's good work.
Dave, you have any old business? Okay. Angela, any additional new business? Lee, Chad?
No.
John?
Nope.
Go ahead.
MPO wants to do a grand check ceremony presentation. It's tentatively scheduled right now for March 30th.
I didn't read the email because I figured it was more involved here.
Anyway, it's tentatively scheduled. I didn't send it out. I'm making you aware of it now. If anybody wants to come, get a picture taken, whatever, with the MPO or March check.
And that's for the roundabout.
That is for the roundabout. So that project did get approved. The way that funding is through the MPO, it's 3-year letting. So we won't see any construction or anything like that probably until 2028. So.
Okay. You have, Dave, new business? Anything new? Okay. Ordinance 2025-01.
I have this to just present. It needs to be introduced tonight, and it's not right to be acted on anyway. But we have, I sent it to all of you, I think. Did I?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did you too, Dave. I guess I think that Dave probably ought to have something to say about this, and I think you're going to want to hear from him. I don't know whether you are all settled on this. I think at our last meeting, I got a clear signal that this is something you as a council wanted to do. I have limited the service fee to only care facilities. So the way it's written right now, if the town assists a private resident in their own home, they're not going to be charged. They can be, and I have discovered in this process that there are a lot of local jurisdictions who have a schedule for all kinds of fees for responses with ambulance runs that may include transport or not transport, different levels of emergency service, emergency all the way down to non-emergency service. I haven't had the sense that New Whiteland has wanted to start charging for everything our fire department does in the way of providing care-related services, but you can, so make note of that. The more urgent concern that was raised a few meetings ago was over here at Vita, we have the town with its own personnel and resources providing a service that I think all of us think ought to be provided by the operator of the care facility, and that they ought not get by with having the town come out and do what they have not provided staff to do for the residents who are paying them a lot of money for room and board and care. And so that's how it's all born out of that. It can be made much more comprehensive if you want. It can be just as it is, and that would be the only facility in town that's charged. I don't think we have any other facility in town, do we? Right? And so if that's okay, we need to know how much we're going to charge. And on that note, too, that can be done. You can be just as creative as you want to be. You know, you get a few free passes. To my mind, a facility ought not get a free pass. I do think we ought to communicate to them that we're not going to do that anymore. You know, this ordinance, it has been passed. We could postpone the effective date for a week or two or 30 days or whatever, and say, if you don't have the proper staff to be able to deal with these lift assists, then you need to get it in place, because we're going to start charging. That'd be okay. But to say, you know, the first 6 are free, I don't know why in the world we'd have the ordinance and then not impose it right out of the gate. I think the other thing could be too, you know, if we come out, then the first however many times it's an amount of money, and after that it's a greater amount of money to incentivize them not to do it. But here again, we're dealing with a business. We're not dealing with a sort of exploitive or careless resident who keeps calling us. To my mind, again, I would think it is what it is. But that's got to be worked out, and a number needs to be plugged in, and it doesn't have to all be settled tonight, but it can be. That's what you have in front of you tonight.
I'd like to hear from Dave, because, I mean, okay, is it their rule that they don't do lifts, or is there, huh?
It's all changed now.
It was their rule, basically, if their nurse staff was not present, and they could not officially evaluate a person for injury, they had to call us. And as Steve was saying, they have new staff now,
It's a new director of nursing.
So
They actually have 2 of them now on staff.
So you're not getting these calls?
No.
Okay.
We've done 1 in the last month, but it's been to the same lady only because of her excessive weight.
Do you think there's a need for this ordinance?
Honestly, not for the facility.
well, I would say not now, but if we're going to do this, I would say have it in place now, because we don't know what their staffing situation is going to be in a few months.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because they might be aware that we're moving in this direction. And so then all of a sudden we're gonna clean this up, and then there's another change in management, or we're short of people again. Then the calls start burning up. It gives them an incentive.
It does.
In order to maintain what, in my opinion, they should already be doing.
So you guys go out there for lift assist, obviously, but you go out there, it seems like you go out there about once a day, on average.
Yeah.
What kind of runs are you getting?
They're general falls, as maybe if they do have an injury, sickness, basic medical type calls.
And the only time generally there's an expense is if somebody's transported. Is that right? So we don't charge?
We never charge.
Okay, okay.
We can't transport.
Since we're not.
But you can.
Yeah, but no, we don't transport them,
Right,
so.
so the ambulance service, which is typically Barbersville,
Right,
they will charge.
right.
That we do not.
But there is a hard, well, but it's a little different than going to somebody's house. You know, this is a business and you're going there frequently. If
Well,
you,
I think some of the thought to this too is when you're showing up on these calls, and there's 5, 6, 7 staff members standing there watching us.
Mm-hmm.
Pick somebody up that's been laying on the floor. And
well,
I mean,
I'm kind of going beyond the lift assist because, you know, you guys put me on responding or whatever. And I see those that tailed off. I think maybe you had one this week, but it's been 30 days at least. But it seems like on average, you're going out there once a day.
Chest pains or
Right.
difficulty breathing.
Been there 4 times now in the last 3 days,
Yeah.
2 days.
In your opinion, is it reasonable to say we ought to be compensated for that? I don't mean to make money, but to cover our expenses.
well, it would certainly be nice, but I think probably a whole more we need to look into on that.
There's what?
I think we'd have to look into that deeper, because I believe there's only certain cases you can actually charge. It depends on the level of care that you're providing. It's something that we have started to discuss because we are in the process of developing an advanced EMT program. And when we get to that point, there will be cases where we can legally charge for services. But I don't think we're at that case yet.
The thing that concerns me about not having something in place is this is supposedly a medical facility.
Correct.
They're
And
technically not a skilled nursing
No, they aren't.
facility. It is assisted living. There's a difference.
Do they have a memory care unit though?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
but they're still
But
not
they're not a licensed.
skilled facility.
Right. So
Like,
it
they don't
is
have
different.
people on vents, they don't have people in vegetative states, stuff like that.
okay, all right. What if we do this? If we do nothing at this point and just ask you guys to monitor, because if it becomes an issue again, I mean, I was at another facility in the county today, and it's ironic that we're talking about this. A gentleman in the lobby, one of their patients fell, and it was assisted living. They didn't call the fire department. Their people were right there, and they took care of getting this gentleman back up, making sure he was okay. And I'm like, funny, we're gonna talk about this tonight.
And the new director of
Now,
nursing.
and if
is
they're doing that, then maybe this is a moot point at this point. But could we implement it without a fee? Let them know that it's been implemented, and if it becomes an issue, then we'll assign a fee, because like John said, then it's in place.
Well, but that's all it is, John, is imposing a fee.
Yeah,
I mean, if we don't impose a fee,
Yeah.
we're not, I guess, I don't see any harm in adopting an ordinance that imposes a fee. And if you wanted to instruct your chief, if you wanted to give to your chief discretion on charging it, you could do that. That'd be a way to
Okay.
have it in place, have the tool in the box, and let him decide whether he's going to use it. The other thing would be to have it, and if they're not getting many calls out there for lift
not gonna matter.
assist, then it's not going to amount to much anyway.
Right.
We'll charge them, and they'll understand that they need to keep doing what they're doing so they don't incur these charges, so that we have sort of made clear that you can't slide back to the way it was, but not do anything more in the way of additional charges until we study it a bit further and you get a little farther down the road on how much more advanced your training and scope of services are going to be.
Is
And we're not gonna adopt it tonight because we're just introducing it tonight. But I think that between now, if you want to decide tonight what that service fee would be, or if you want to wait and insert that at the next meeting, you can. And then you all have 30 days to think about this a bit more if you choose to. But I think to John Schlosky's point that you're doing fine. We don't have any complaints. But be aware that if you lose a director of nursing and you just sort of sit by idly and don't bother to get around filling that position for 18 months, there'd be some incentive there to make sure that they are able to continue to do this on their own. What's the downside of doing that, I guess? I don't think there is.
You guys are involved with it. Do you have just so we have something to think about, what's it worth? If you had to put a dollar figure on it.
Well, I guess, I don't know if we have capital ordinances, but I don't think you're gonna have impact on a facility like that if you're charging $25.
Oh no, it's got to be $250 or something like
So
that.
yeah, it's gotta be a couple $100.
Yeah.
But the other thing though too is, you know, you're talking about charging for our services. We don't get the money from this. It just goes into the general fund.
Well, they can always be directed to you. I mean, you can end up with the money. But you're right, it will be paid into the general fund.
So I guess unless there's a process there that we can then say, okay, well, this is going to be used then for training or equipment, whatever, then it's kind of.
I think though that the purpose of it is to incentivize them to be able to self-help, not to call out for you. It's really not about collecting money. It's for the same reason that we have penalties for local ordinance violations. It's not to make money. It's to try to make sure people comply. And I think that's what this turns out to be. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, there is no fund to which we could directly deposit this into the
Right. But I guess, so it brings up to our other point, our consideration is, do we want to write an ordinance for one single situation? Or do we want to go ahead and expand this ordinance to cover all nuisance type calls?
That's fine.
The false fire alarm.
But we can always amend the ordinance and broaden the scope of it at any point. I think that what makes that question, or what drives that question is, do we think there's an urgent need to get this in place? And I think when this issue came up a few months ago, we sensed that there was. And tonight, it doesn't sound like it's currently a problem. And so if this is something that we hold and work on for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and this doesn't come back as a problem like it had been, I don't think we're putting ourselves in any great risk by holding it for a while.
Well, the question I have about the way it's written, it says non-emergency assistance to a person who doesn't require emergency medical services such as lift. So that, the way this is written, I don't think it limits it to lift assist, does it?
It doesn't.
So it could potentially be any run they have.
It can.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know what other non-emergency services.
Right.
See, I don't know that they're
I just
on
wanted to
a
make sure I
call.
understood what
Right.
we really were talking about.
And those are defined terms under the statute, that emergency and non-emergency services. I don't know. I can't come up with that.
We would have to expand the wording though to incorporate the nuisance calls, because if we're talking about like multiple false fire alarm calls
Yeah.
at the same facility, that's an emergent call to start with.
Right.
Yeah, and those ordinances are.
Somebody argue, oh, well, this doesn't apply.
Those ordinances are quite common.
Yeah,
And
so I think we would just want to have the wording in there, even though it's kind of incorporated.
Do you have that going on now? Or there? I mean, obviously, we're not talking about this facility for that, but you have that going on at this point.
We have, yeah. They come and go.
Yeah,
But
sure.
It is a common problem.
So if we're in agreement, we'll just kind of let this lay for a bit
that sounds right.
and see where it ends up. And if it becomes a problem, feel free to bring it back.
Well, and I was gonna say, maybe you guys ought to think about it and come back next month and give us some ideas. If there's things that are going on right now that you feel like ought to be addressed or you ought to be compensated, And the flip side of that is if you say, you know, we'd like that money or a portion of that money to go to training or to go to gear. I mean, I'm open to that too. You know, obviously, every time you rush out there, you're putting wear and tear on everything you've got. There's no reason why, you know, we're saying this is defraying expense. There's no reason I can think of to say, well, and that's not then gonna go back to, defray some expense that we already have or some equipment that you guys need.
Right. Yeah. And I am in favor of having an ordinance in place before we need it. I just think it's probably a good idea just to go ahead and get everything in there now, so it covers everything.
Well, maybe
Sure, makes sense.
think about that between now and the next and come back with some recommendations.
Yeah.
And just for a little piece of information, Indiana Department of Homeland Security says for volunteer fire departments, for each hour or fraction thereof on-scene assistance, we can charge, they don't say you have to, but we can charge $200 per response unit and $100 per command or control vehicle.
Right.
Okay. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, that is everything on this evening's agenda.
Get your resolution, get your resolution.
It's not on here.
Well, it just came up that state revolving fund has to have a resolution adopted to authorize the application to be submitted and designate you to execute documents on behalf of the town to move through the state revolving fund application process. So do they have copies or?
I think, did you?
Well, I tell you what,
I included it in the very
Deny
last
him because
It-
he's used to this. He's used to us.
It's a-
Deny him and make him wait.
You need to go back to this. You got too much time on your hands. You're getting bad. They need to hire you back.
it's the standard state revolving fund form that just simply authorizes someone to act on behalf of the town.
Is this for the wastewater work?
Yeah, for that project,
Yeah, yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
So we need a motion to
I
authorize
will
John.
make the motion.
Okay.
I will second it.
Damn.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
And then he voted for it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I missed
Birdie
it.
motion, I second.
Dennis,
At this time, the meeting is open to the public.
that's a resolution.
Seeing no public, we are adjourned.
You had to put the gavel down quick.
Oh, we're all public, right?
I
I
almost,
got steps for you too, so.
Matt, I almost won right there.
Do what?
I was up here chanting, shut you down.
And then you voted for it, because that's just the kind of guy you